we're going to kind of take a break a bit from Matthew and kind of combine the Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. We're going to take a pause in the cause because of each clause of each thing that Jesus said. There are 7 different statements, like sentences or so, that Jesus said on the cross that were recorded. He may have said other things, but these are the ones that the writers chose to write down. There's Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Matthew wrote 2 of them. Luke and John wrote 3 of them, 3 each. And then, what am I missing? Matthew, Mark. Mark did this couple. Anyway, yeah, a couple. So let's go through these. And I might even do this once we end in Mark, Luke, John, just as a quick review. But as we get to each one, like Luke, when he says it, then we'll go in depth. We'll go down and try and figure out more what he's saying. So I'm going to skim across what he said. Just like we did in Matthew, Actually, in Matthew, only says it says he cried out with a loud voice on the end, but it didn't say what he said. So there really is only one saying. It's 2, but one saying that's actually written in the words. But in Matthew. But let's go through these. These are the 7 things that are the record of what Jesus said. These are 7 things that Jesus said while on the cross. Oh, they're so powerful and rich and significant. And I think they're probably in this order. You know, it's not for sure, but I think the very first thing he said right away was, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. In my opinion, I don't know when that was. Chances are he was crucified, I think it's probably about 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock. Could have been any time between 9 and 3. 9 and 12 is when he was crucified, but it seems like it was probably more towards 9. That's probably, they got him up on the cross pretty quickly. The second thing, Father, forgive them. I'm not going to talk about too much, but look at that. Look at the powerful statement that Jesus is saying here. Here, Father, forgive them. He's praying. Who's he forgiving? Everybody, but particularly the ones who just put him on the cross. He's literally saying, forgive them. Now, has there anything happened to you that is worse than what Jesus did? Even if there was something that you consider is worse, and just remember that Jesus forgave them. And he prayed, Father. He's literally praying. The way you're going to get full of love for people and kindness and forgiveness is praying. Prayer does it. You know, if you open up your heart to God, then the Father's love and forgiveness will be there. Father, forgive them. He's releasing them into God's hands. I mean, you know, that's pretty amazing. For they do not know what they are doing. They really... Nobody had a clue that this is truly, well, not nobody, but the people who put him on the cross, if they knew that that was the Son of God plus their judge, they wouldn't have done it. But that's sin. It blinds. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. And then the next thing is, the number 2 thing is in Luke. These are both in Luke. It's not written in the others. It's pretty surprising. But when we get to Luke, we'll discuss that. But, you know, there's a reason that they didn't write everything. They had a specific focus in mind when they wrote their literature, their book. All right, so this is what he said to the one of the thieves. One of the robbers, really, not more of a thief, it's more of a robber, literally got saved that day, and the other one didn't seem to. Unless he changed, but I think that would have been recorded by Luke or something. And this is incredible stuff that this guy literally changed, and he called on Jesus. What's really fascinating to me is that while Jesus has all this excruciating pain, lots of sighs, lots of groaning, sick to his stomach, nauseated, bleeding to death, swollen eyes, pain everywhere in his body, just in his soul, in his spirit, in his mind, everything. He still ministered to people. He even gave hope, and he actually saved someone right there. I tell you the truth, or amen, or truly I say unto you, or whatever, truly, truly I say to you. He says, today you will be with me in paradise. Like not way later, even today, immediately you're going to get into, paradise is like a place of beauty and happiness, and it's just like a park, a really wonderful park, or a garden. Like Garden of Eden, it was like a paradise. So it's just a beautiful place of peace and harmony and sweetness and pleasure. It's absolutely wonderful. So that's wonderful. Number 3 is, woman, here is your son. He's really talking to his mom, and we'll explain that why he called her woman. That was a very endearing, very sweet way of saying it in those days. Woman, or dear woman. You know, he said, here is your son. And I don't know right there. We'll study that more and discuss it. This is in the book of John. And that's where Mary, was the mother of Jesus, was right there. And John was right there. The others weren't. They could have been in a distance, probably. So far away looking. But because they're afraid that they're going to recognize and remember Peter in the Garden of Gethsemane. But woman, here is your son. He really could, I'm not sure at this point whether he's talking about himself. Here is your, behold, look at your son. Or he could have said, here is your son, and kind of talked to the woman and said, there's John, here's your son. In other words, I'm turning John over to you as to be your mother. And he said to him, here is your mother. And from that day on, he took care of her. He took her into his house. So that's a really sweet moment on the cross. Then I've already talked about this, pretty lengthy. This is one of the deepest, most mysterious ones. Remember that? Lema sabachthani. Yeah, you know, Eli, 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 you know, like that. My God, why have you forsaken me? We've already discussed that. That is actually mentioned in Matthew and Mark. It's not mentioned in the other two. Okay, then we have, I thirst. We go back to John. He's the one who says this, I'm thirsty. And that's when they give him water. And I'm not water, wine. Actually, we did discuss that in Matthew. But this is the reason why, maybe why they gave him this. Remember that reed, that hyssop and all, and gave him that wine with the sour wine, you know, that they gave him. So with vinegar in it. So that's where I thirst. He was thirsty. And then these are the last two things he said. By the way, from here down, these last 4, 5, 6, and 7, I personally believe that these are almost at 3 o'clock, like way later. And during 12 to 3 in the darkness and all, I think he was pretty silent and just groaning and in pain. Maybe he didn't make a whole lot of noise in his groaning, just silently took it in. But definitely in pain. But he may have said some things here and there, but I don't think so. You know, I think these are things that are definitely recorded. Well, they were definitely recorded, but anyway. So he started this about 3 o'clock. He said this right afterwards. It's like he finishing up. Then he said, it is finished, or tetelestai is a Greek. We'll talk about what that means later. I kind of mentioned a little bit on that. It's completed. And basically, everything is completed. Debt has been paid. That's one of the things. The other thing is the fulfillment of the law, the fulfillment of the sacrifices, everything that you gave me to do. This is in the book of John 2. And earlier he said he was coming to finish the work. And so here it is. It is finished right there. So he said this right before he died, like seconds before, maybe half a minute, I don't know, maybe a minute. And then he said, Father, he's praying again. Notice he said, Father here, and he says, Father here. I love, and he said, my God, right here, which is, by the way, interesting. It's the only time that Jesus called him God. I didn't mention that. I just thought of that. That he always said Father or Lord of heaven and earth. He said it in Matthew 11, but mainly it's always Father whenever he prayed. Here he literally said, my God. It's like a sinner's prayer. Like they don't know God as a father yet. And he literally took the identification. He took the place of a sinner saying, my God, my God. Wow, that's really deep. All right, so here it is. Father, he prays back to him. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Into your hands I commit my spirit. So that's a really, really powerful thing. I think what he's saying here is, and then he breathed his last breath. What he's saying here is, it's time. Like, okay, I commit my spirit into your hands. You know, God's got him. And then he breathes his last breath right there. That right before he said that, or right before he died, he said that. Yeah. Give his spirit means giving up your life. You know, he just exhaled, like right there, and he died. Beautiful, beautiful passage. Each one of those statements that Jesus said. Notice all the wonderful things about him. Prayer 3 times. Talking tenderly to a guy who said, today you're going to be with me in paradise. That's great. We get to meet him one day. If you get into heaven, you get to meet him and talk to him. It's going to be fun. And then what else? You know, I thirst. And then it is finished. He's accomplished his work. It is finished, Father, I pray. Just each thing is just wonderful statements. There's depth, deep things to each. Anyway, really good. All right, thanks for listening. All right, we'll proceed, Lord willing, in the next passage when he after, what happens? Well, here's what it says. So when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. So that's where. Well, I might just say that's in the verses here. I might say that again in the next one. And at that point, something dramatic happens. We'll get into this as we go, but I think there was about 5 different miracles that happened during this crucifixion thing. You already know some, like for example, the darkness. That's a miracle for 3 hours. 5 different miracles during the crucifixion, during the not the resurrection, but during this time of death. So we'll talk about each one later. All right, thanks for listening. God bless you. Oh, by the way, are you starting to fall in love with Jesus more? I am.